now getting more into the specifics. I was told that some of you, basically getting up towards ready for Horizon 2020. I think one of the most important bits is the consortium you are requiring to do research and innovation action. Means that you have to complement your expertise with other collaborators, right? So I see this a lot also in Europe, that people are missing specific expertise in their network. So I think the main bit is if you want to get European funds, you have to go to Europe, right? So you also have to work on your network of contacts in Europe. You have to, there's many ways to do this. There's obviously you go to conferences, obviously you have to invite researchers here to come and give talks. You really have to build your collaborative network, because if you design a consortium for a project proposal, one of the first things evaluators will look at is, have they worked together? It doesn't necessarily have to be a new project before, but if you have publications together, at least part of the team, that will prove to evaluators that these guys can, and if I say guys, it's an English term, it always includes women all the time. I'm sorry about this. So there, you have to prove to the evaluator that you can work together effectively, that you're not just coming together to get the money and then you're just sort of disappearing in different corners of the world again and do your thing. And this is most effectively done by collaborative publications. So the most important thing is, if you have your network of contacts, they are the core for your consortium, and then you might add for your specific project additional people to this. But a core has to be there, those people you trust, as you said earlier, right? So you have a core of family and friends. You trust they will do their work as you allot them. So, but the question is, if you do want to get into Europe and you want to strengthen your network, there's many different ways how to do this. There's cost actions. You can also work as an evaluator with the EU. And I do think that the most important asset all European countries have is national contact points. They have the expertise. They can help you in many, many ways. As I said earlier, get all the help you can. In Austria, our NCP, even me, who have been doing this for 15 years, I have a question, I get in touch with my NCP, ask her, what is your opinion about this? And even if I want somebody to tell me what I know already, but to be certain about specific things, to have a second opinion from somebody who knows, and Josa, I think, I met her yesterday, she is very competent, she knows the ropes, she has contacts, so explore her if you have a question, and I'm sure she will be able to help you. So I think consortium building is one of those things you cannot do when you read, the call is published usually 6 to 9 months before the deadline, then it's already too late to start with consortium building. You already have to have your network in place, which you can rely on, and then discuss with your friends and colleagues how to assemble the right set of people to meet the challenge in this one proposal. Is this clear for you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? So who has got a good network in Europe? You have one? You?
How many time we need to write a good proposal? Because in twinning, the problem was the deadlines.
I don't know the twinning instrument. I'm sorry. I have no clue how complicated the.
In consortium,
yeah. But if you think of research and innovation action, it's about 50 pages. You have about 15 pages of concept and impact. So that doesn't sound much, right? Because 15 pages you can probably write in a week. But I don't think you can do this. So for me, I can come to this. Okay, but I'll get back to you in a moment. So if somebody of you doesn't have a European network, okay, if some of you feel they need to expand more into, find new collaborators in your field, I think one of the important things is you have to make yourself visible. Because people need to find you, right? So if you are, social media is a great thing today, and in science it's increasingly important to be present also in social media. You have to select social media which are suitable for you and where your colleagues are. But whether it's ResearchGate, whether it's Google Scholar, there are so many opportunities to present yourself and your expertise. You should not forgo this opportunity. I think it's also a strength of Tunisia, maybe, because I know that in Austria, several research institutions will not allow you, for example, to have your own web page as a researcher. Because they say, no, this is ours. And then they probably have a really crappy presentation of you. But then they will not allow you to have your own. I hope in Tunisia this is a little bit different. I trust that actually your self-presentation on, in the web is probably not so restricted as in some areas in Europe. So you can really present yourself, your profile online, because this is how people are doing this in Europe now, and why shouldn't you do this here? It's a free world, right? So do this. I can, I put some of my stuff up. If you do it, think about it and do it professionally, because that's one of the most important things. If people don't know you and if read a proposal about you, from you, the first thing what they will do, they check you online, right? That's what you would do as well, right? If you see a proposal from somebody you don't know, what do you do, how to find out about them, right? You check what they've published, you check the university they're working at, and if you don't find anything else, you check whether they are on Twitter, on ResearchGate, or Google Scholar. So if your colleagues want to get to know you, give them a good impression and tell them what your achievements are, tell them what your publications are, and give them a little bit in addition. Sure.
Do the evaluators check those things when evaluating the proposal?
When I'm evaluating, I do. I can't speak for all of them, but it also depends a little bit. So let's say if I read your proposal and you have dissemination activities described, okay? And then you say, we will use social media, right? And then I check your social media presence if you're the coordinator. And then I see, you have a Twitter account where you have posted a tweet 2 years ago and you have 15 followers. Then maybe I think, not a strong point, right? But if you post a tweet about you don't have to post a tweet every day, right? But if you have a social media account where you regularly post developments in the field, which highlight papers you find interesting, and then also present your own research, then I will be satisfied. And if you have 150 followers, that's already better than most, right? And I think 150 followers, talk to your friends. I'm sure you have somewhere someone in your vicinity who knows how to make a website, who knows how to be on social media, what works. And I have a friend So my personal account, I don't spend too much time, but our Biolution account has 1,000 followers, and I think last year we invested more time, and I just got hold of somebody who supports me for not even money. We just make an exchange basically, and I get 100 followers a month in addition on average. It's really, for me, it's no work. It's just a strategy. So think about it. Talk to people who know a little bit about social media, and you will be successful in this because there's still not so many people doing it, right? And I must say, I know a couple of young colleagues of yours. They do not check publications on NCBI or journals. They only check Twitter. They have a Twitter list. Look on Twitter. Twitter is so useful for news, and there's also science news. All journals are on Twitter. Editors of the most important journals you are looking at, they're all on Twitter. If you want to know what the most important developments in your field are, you don't have to check the journals anymore, because the journal is just putting out 50 papers every week, right? But if you check on Twitter what the editor says about those publications, what are the highlights, then you're already plugging into an expert who puts all this his own expertise up online for free. Okay, I'm just getting stuck. So one important thing I was touching on already is the unfortunate event that even the best proposals don't succeed the first time around. So really I know it's very emotional, I get really, really unhappy about project not being funded after 15 years, right? I've got so many proposals, nobody gets used to this. Rewriting and the resubmission is the one thing, if you don't plan to resubmit your proposal, don't even start writing it in the first time. Yeah, you cannot succeed the first time necessarily. Sometimes, maybe, you're lucky, but don't plan for it. So it's an important lesson not to give up, because it's a struggle. I told you about Steve Jackson, right? If you think you're as good as Steve Jackson, and you still have to face the fact that it's a struggle for everybody. But I really can't stress enough that it's not a lottery. I do see this. I'm evaluating regularly, and I get resubmissions where projects are not changed. It is an absolute no-go. Evaluators usually find weak spots for a reason, even if they don't communicate to you what the reasons are why they failed a proposal. You cannot resubmit a proposal and think you might be lucky second time that people don't spot it. Those evaluators, they are trained to spot the weaknesses, and there's nothing easier than spotting weaknesses. It's actually much more difficult to spot the strengths, right? So the weaknesses, everybody sees immediately. 2 weeks ago, I was in Brussels evaluating. I had a proposal which was not changed. It was a resubmission. What happens in a resubmission? After the evaluators gave their verdict and the points, we are told it's a resubmission. Then they open an envelope and they show us what the previous evaluator said. We were basically spot on. We were half a point out, and we had all the same points. It was a very weak proposal, so then it was probably a little bit more obvious. But there is nothing more frustrating for an evaluator to sit in front of basically an unchanged proposal, because I'm working, when I provide feedback, I still try to somehow identify the weaknesses for that's my work, right, for the applicants. So they will somehow understand how to improve and how to, succeed the next time. But if the applicant thinks he can just throw in the same thing again and, wastes my time, it's a no-go. So if this person if I ever see this person or read a proposal from this person, I will have a very bad opinion about this guy. And that is not where you want to be, right? Okay, so another thing about success is, hedge your bets. Loads of people look at the call text and then think, oh, there's something for me, right? And then they decide to write for this. But in the back of the work program, there's also these figures. So if you are looking for example, this project, it probably says in the call or in the topic that projects are in the range of 3 to 5 million. And in the back, it says how many millions are available for this one topic. So it's important information for you, right? If you think that most projects will be around 5 million and there's 40 million available, there will be 8 projects funded. So that's good, right? Because there's other projects. I mean, this is, I don't know what this project is, but you see there's only 6 million available. So maybe this is for smaller projects, but there's certainly not going to be 4 projects funded for this. So being aware of these numbers is important because, for example, if this would be something in chronic diseases and there would be 8 projects funded, you can already start counting. Cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, which cancers, okay? So if you think there's maybe only 1 or 2 projects for a specific large chronic diseases, maybe 1, maybe 2. So if you are in neurodegenerative diseases going for a chronic disease call, you know that if there's 4 projects there, you will be the only neurodegenerative disease project funded, okay? So you have to be the very, very best in the neurodegenerative diseases. Same for cardiovascular, whatever. Whatever your disease is, this is how you have to read the calls and realize what the ambition is. And the smaller your project becomes, if you only address we were discussing this earlier, if you address only a small section of neurodegenerative diseases, already there are trade-offs, right? Because of impact. The trade-offs are, if you are looking into a smaller neurodegenerative disease like Parkinson's disease, which has probably 1/10 of the patients, right, the impact is already much lower because the impact is always calculated in how many people suffer, how much does it cost in public money, and how much money could pharma make. These are the impacts which are judged. Yes? It's very simple. So when you look at the call in the topic, whatever your topic is, there will always be in the bottom that the EC expects projects in the range of 3 to 5 million euros. Okay? So if you think of this, there will probably be 1 project about 3 million and 99 projects with 5 million, and probably also some which are a little bit higher. So you just have to take the higher number because that's the fact that most projects will be around 5 million. And then if you know that there's 40 million available, you just divide 40 by 5, and then you know it's 8, right? Okay. I was going on about this evaluation process. So evaluation is the one process which determines your success, right? So you need to understand how evaluation works. Has anybody ever evaluated for you? Anybody of you? Why not? You should do it. You should ask Yoser how to become an expert and learn the ropes from the other side. The most important thing is, sorry? Is it possible? Of course. If you are an expert, you can also be an expert at the EU. Of course it is. The process...
We made like a special day for how to become an evaluator with the there were two actually stakeholders. One postdoc, she's engineer, and one actually they became evaluator in a very like competitive project, and they're so happy, you know, because they signed their contract and things running. Like this is 2 years ago, you know, they started to be evaluator.
Ask Yosa, she knows everything. I know it well, but she's here to help you along because, but I think the most important experience in evaluation is you understand what evaluators look for in your proposal. And that makes your proposals much better, right? So the most important thing is if you understand, we talked 60 pages a proposal in length, right? How much time does an evaluator get to look at the proposal? What do you think? Judge? 1 week. It's very funny.
3 months.
3 months. Half a day. Half a day. So he's paid half a day for reading the proposal, and he's paid a quarter of a day to write the assessment. Okay? And then he's paid another half day or 1 day, if it's a remote evaluation, for the consensus meeting. Okay? So it's not much time. Yeah. So this is the process here. Okay? So the expert gets the proposal. He usually reads it remotely at home, half a day. And if he has to spend more time on it, he won't get more money for it, right? And this also has to be done within a time frame of 2 weeks, because you know that evaluation doesn't take 3 months, right? So you get from the time you submit your proposal to the time you learn whether you're funded or not is about 6 months, right? So they obviously do a quality check and all those sort of things. Then they have to identify the right evaluators because they're not just there and saying, hello, I want to, somebody has to select them. So then they have to agree to do it, and they have to sign a contract. So it's a long process. So then they get the proposals. Then they have about 2 weeks to read them and submit their individual evaluation report. Okay? So then they either meet in Brussels or they have to discuss remotely in a Skype meeting what their score is for this proposal. And sometimes there is divergent opinions. And the most important thing I want to let you know is evaluators are working in groups. So I might get 10 proposals at a time or 12, okay? But I'm only in charge of like 2 or 3. And then I'm called the rapporteur. So I'm the one who will, as a rapporteur, I will have to write the consensus report. So the final report which you will get. So the rapporteur is the one who guides the meeting on this one proposal. And if the rapporteur doesn't like the proposal, because when I'm a rapporteur, I read the proposal a little bit more carefully and spend probably a little bit more time than on the other proposals. I have to lead the meeting and I have to say, these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses. So then all the other guys, I read their individual reports already, might agree or disagree. But if I find loads of weaknesses and I decide this cannot be funded, this project, the other guys won't pick a fight with me. Never, in rare occasions. So if you cannot convince the rapporteur to fight for you, and this is usually the expert in your field. If you are looking at chronic diseases, there's a group of 12 evaluators who are cardiovascular, neurodegenerative, from all across chronic diseases. So the rapporteur is probably an expert in neurodegenerative or in mitochondrial disease, but the other guys, they are not. So now, if your rapporteur in mitochondrial diseases thinks this is an excellent project, he now has to go to the other evaluators and says, oh, look, I think this project should be funded. It's really good here, it's really good there, blah, 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 blah. And so he says, oh, well, but this guy is probably thinking, mitochondrial diseases, who cares about those? I want, this other project, which is in neurodegenerative diseases, which is my pet project, and I probably want this funded. So he will find reasons why it should be weaker, right? So you have to discuss. The short story is, in this discussion, you have to make it easy for the rapporteur to make your arguments. And the easiest way is to have a well-structured proposal. A proposal where you can find everything at a spot. If I'm fighting for your proposal, and then somebody says, oh, but they didn't write whatever. And I said, oh, yes, they did. It was on page 23. And if you don't have page numbers, and if you don't have highlights, and if you don't have a structured proposal with paragraphs, I will never find it in the discussion. Then I will say, oh, it was on page 23. Oh, no, maybe not on 24 or 25. And then it's already gone. Because then the guy says, well, you saw, they forgot it, or it's not visible, or it's not strong enough. So it's a very, very short time period, which I have, even if I want to fight for you. If you don't make it easy for me to fight for you, your proposal will not be funded. What is the threshold to get funded in EU proposals? Do you know this? You need to know this? Anybody know? You know?
Yeah, 13 out of 15. This is for help.
Yeah.
But never 13, the scoring 13
Yeah.
out of 15, the total. But never people with 13 get
Yeah. So there's three criteria.
14.5.
Yeah. So there's three criteria. Yeah. Scientific excellence, impact, and implementation. You can get, if everything is super good, excellent, right? You get 5 points. So your maximum score is 15, as Josa said. To get funded, to get the opportunity to be funded, has to be 13, because if you have only 12, the Commission says the project is not good enough to get money. So if there is only if there is money for 3 projects, and there's 3 projects above 13, they will all get funded. But usually it's not like this. Usually you have probably 3 projects with 15 and 1 with 14.5. And then the guy with 14.5 won't get any money, even though it's probably an outstanding proposal. So you have to familiarize with this process. It's really, really important, because if you understand the process, you will understand the demands on the evaluators, and then you will also understand how to support your evaluator to give you a good score. Yeah?
Just to say that there's very good proposals already, like
outstanding proposals.
The scoring like over than 13, and there's a short list, for example, of 50 groups. They submitted to that type of topic, and they got over than 13, 15, like going from like 13, 13.5, 14, 14.5, 15. And they will go, on the short list. Yeah, who has like the highest scoring, they will be getting the funding, the grant. It works like that. And what we want to improve the submission, the proposal, how to get it the best one, like very, very close to the competitive, like the highest.
So when you have 3 proposals of 15, the main, and there's money for 3, okay, then clearly only projects with 15 can get money, right? There will be a shortlist, as Josa explained, which basically puts you in the ranking of the highest scores. And then there are some criteria in addition. So if let's say there are only 2 projects with 15, and there's money for 4, they will go down to 14.5 as well. So if there's 5 proposals with 14.5, which proposals do they pick? Because there's not money for 5, there's only money left for 2. So what they will do, they will judge whether you have a higher score in scientific excellence. So it's always the first criterion. So if 14.5, it means you have in two criterion you have 5 points. In one you have only 4.5, right? So if this is in scientific excellence, then you're already on the bottom of the list if somebody else has a 5 in scientific excellence. And then they will also look at the female participation. So if you have a female coordinator and a large number of female participants in your project, then you are also priority over other projects which have a lower number. So you always have to name how many women you are in your projects. Very important. It's a strong point of Tunisia, right? I can see this. So, and the next point is SME participation. So if you have SMEs, you know what SMEs are? Excellent. Exactly. So if you have SMEs participating, there will also be an evaluation criteria. What won't be an evaluation criteria? Oh, those Tunisian coordinators have never done it, so let's give them the money. It won't happen, right? There is no other argument. So there is only those hardcore criteria, because if somebody else would say, well, but I know them, they're so good. No, it doesn't work like this. It's only the numbers, all right? Only what I told you. These are the criteria. If somebody would admit that something else enters in these discussions, there's so many people there, there's external, there's an external advisor there in all those, there are observers there. So you really have to stick to the rules when you're evaluating. In all those sessions when we do the discussions, there is a vice chair present who has got nothing to do with this. There is only making sure that we stick to the rules. And if there's, for example, if they think that's a complicated issue because the scores were very different, then there might be an additional person there. So it's extremely elaborate, the evaluation process. It's a lot of work for everybody to make sure that the evaluation is done properly. So this is just one example. This is just a proposal. You're not meant to read it, which was unfortunately not funded, but I just want to show you a little bit about what a good proposal looks like. First glance, okay, we use color, all right? What you don't see is I never use the same font the commission provides, because if you think I have 10 proposals to look at, this is the one with this strange blue color. I will remember this one. If I have to look for something, if you have a specific font, it's already distinguishing you from all the others, all right? And then it's really important, subheadings, little boxes, short paragraphs. If you want to write something about stakeholders, about patenting, whatever, and you can't think of more than 3 lines, only write 3 lines. There will be enough. But you have to write something about patenting. You have to write something about exploitation, all those sort of things. Give it a headline, because as an evaluator, I'm looking for those. Where is exploitation described? This is where it is. Aha, yes, I tick it, fine. Right? But I need to be able to find it. Next thing is graphics. Super important. If I understand what your proposal is about on such a graphic like this, then you have won, right? Then I know and I can explain to the other evaluators, look, this is what they're planning. This is really clever. This is innovative, whatever it is, okay? So I always need a graphical abstract in a proposal. The most important thing is, if you read a proposal and you have never heard of the field, that's what I do a lot, right? I read these proposals. I've done a little bit in cancer. I've done a little bit in developmental biology. Now I all of a sudden read something about neurodegenerative diseases. I know nothing about it, okay, in principle. I don't know what they want to do. It's like me just being dumped in the middle of a city and I have no map. And then I need to be sort of walking around and find my way, and it's really, really complicated. If I have a graphical abstract and I know what this is all about, also if I have a very good abstract to read at the beginning, what the aims are and what the objectives are, then I already have a framework in my head of what do they want to do, what is the aim, do I buy into this? And this is an important guide, sort of a framework for the evaluator to find his way through your research plan, to understand what it's about. And you also have to put data in, okay? Very simple. very simplified data, not the data from your last paper or the paper you have just submitted. You have to work on it, make it simple so that somebody like me, who's never heard about your research, understands immediately, aha, this is the essay, very simple, very robust, whatever it is, what is the readout? Everybody needs to understand it. And give it something catchy, clearly, but it's really important to put some data in. So people will trust your essay they've probably never heard about, right? It's confidential anyway. You don't have to worry about patenting. You don't have to worry about your papers. Clearly an important thing. So this is just the typical proposal, which I got today, right? This is half a page of text without any structure. It's too much, right? It's good in a way. Here at the bottom you can see already paragraphs piling up with 4 or 5 lines. This is a good structure. Never have half a page of text without anything, because I get lost. I don't want to read. I want to have bullet points. I want to have tables. I want to have highlights. Okay, so this is another graphical abstract. I don't think, so this is the first ERC proposal I supported, and which got funded. I don't think it's graphically the nicest thing you could ever devise, and there was no professional graphic designer involved. But as a map to understand what was planned in this ERC proposal, it serves very well. And the guy who was, we worked on this as a concept for probably 2 or 3 months, just on this figure. We just went back to it and what we could do here and what we could do there. For example, this is just, this little thing, this little snake was my idea at some point. And it's not the only idea, but I'm just saying it's just a simple thing, what we really liked, that you understand that we have a load of genes at the beginning and just critical effectors, which is a small number in the end, that we explain this in a graphical detail. So really spend time on those sort of aspects to make it easier for the evaluator to understand what you're doing. Okay? And as I said, you don't need if you have a professional graphics guy who do it for you, even better, but it's not required. You can also do it in PowerPoint or whatever your favorite program is. So the next thing, what I wanted to say is expected impacts. They're listed in your favorite topic, yeah? And this is not a multiple choice thing, right? You cannot pick your favorite ones. If you think there's one in there your proposal cannot match, it's not your topic. If you have to stretch somewhere, maybe I can do this, that's already difficult. Then maybe you have to get another member in your consortium to actually cover this. And look at this. This is a long list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 expected impacts you have to meet in this proposal. And for each of them, in the impact section, you have a little paragraph. You have a headline, and then below you write how you will meet this expected impact. Why is it called expected impact? Because the Commission expects you to provide this, right? There's also other impacts. There's not only the expected impacts. Yes?
Is to redact by us, or we must found it in the proposal?
The expected impacts,
yes,
they are listed in the topic.
In the topic.
So they are provided to you by the Commission to tell you what your proposal has to meet.
Should be funded by us.
You have to explain how you meet this expected impact. Okay? So you have to have a headline about the use of multidisciplinary, multi-source real-world data, okay? And then you write 3 or 4 lines, and if that's sufficient, everything is good, right? Just don't forget there's other impacts as well. There are, in the work program, the first couple of pages, there's also a list of impacts the Commission is looking for. It's like sort of, whether it's personalized medicine or whether it's about reducing, improving the health of the citizens on many of these policy things. You can pick from there as well, and then you put this into your impact section as well. Every time with a headline, every time with a small paragraph below why you will improve the health of citizens, why you will reduce the costs in public health sector, and all those sort of things.
It should be such to found a question and to reply in.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So implementation, is one of those things where you as a researcher should have your strong points, right? Because you are doing this every day. You're performing your experiments, you're telling your technicians what to do, the PhD students. So you need a plan, right? You need a plan in your proposal. What in Work Package 1 happens when. And I do think this is something what you can do at the beginning of writing your proposals, not at the end. I mean, obviously, we usually do those nice graphs in the end. But in the beginning, you should already check in each of your work packages, how is the timing? Does it work out? I have 5 years, right? So what do I do first? Are there things which I need to do before I can start? Because your evaluators, again, they are experts. Some of them are experts in your field. And then if they see, they all start at the same time with something, but clearly the requirements are not there yet. Maybe, the Work Package 1 has to actually complete something first, which is only completed in year 2, then all the others can't start working, right? If you have to identify some biomarkers first before you develop the assay, you cannot start assay development on day 1. So people will pick this up if your timing is wrong. So I told this already, your consortium is also something what people will look at. And they will not only look at whether you have done your postdoc in Cambridge or your PhD in Munich or wherever. It's clear that you have to have some complementarity, right? The people you have chosen to be part of your project, they are all having a specific function and role. And I want to see as an evaluator, what are they contributing? If they have a good experience in assay development and they are not in charge of the work package assay development, why not? Right? These are all discrepancies where I can just see, we shift this like this and maybe whatever. So you have to really start from the core of your science to give all those individuals specific tasks, right? Exploit their expertise very clearly. And you have to describe this in section 4. You have to describe what the partners are contributing, right? So don't pull off the website of University X or of Department Y what is written there. Really get your partners write something individual about their strengths. Because I will check their online profile anyway. And if there is just the text plucked from the website, what will happen? I will not trust you that you actually talk to these guys, and maybe these guys are actually not interested in your project at all. Maybe they didn't contribute anything. Maybe you just said, I write you in this proposal, I do all the work, don't worry about it, and if you get the money, you will be happy, and this is a bad impression. So you really need to present, or all the partners need to present themselves adequately and individually. It's important. It's really important. It's not something you do in the last moment, okay? Okay, so we discussed these 5 success factors, and now what do you think is the most important one? Any guesses? Exactly, all of them. As we said, Josa said it, yeah, you need to score 15 or 14.5. So there's not a single little bit where you can let the evaluator down. Yeah, you cannot just say, oh, because I'm very good in scientific excellence, I don't worry about implementation. It doesn't work like this. You have to score high in all criteria if you want to get funded. So don't accept any weak spots, no blind spots, no weaknesses. So when we look at the back at the evaluation criteria, in the bottom they're a little bit small, but in the bottom says 3 is good, okay? So it's certainly not good enough. Very good is 4, and very good says the proposal addresses the criterion very well, but a small number of shortcomings are present. So in 4, which is usually not sufficient to get funded, you have already addressing very well, and you have a small number of shortcomings. Okay? So if you have a small number of shortcomings in one of your criteria, you're already out of the game. So that's why you're absolutely correct. All of them, all of those success criteria we discussed, you have to address and work hard. And this is just a survey of Horizon 2020. So this is saying you that in Horizon 2020, 38% of the participants have not participated before in FP7 or in Horizon 2020. So there is an option for those who have, but this is institutions, it's not individual researchers, okay? But you can dissect this into companies and small companies and large companies, and basically when you dissect this, there's only about 12% of these are academic research institutions. So it is actually quite a small number of academic research institutions which are new in Horizon 2020. And this is the number of successful proposals, right? So it's 14%, that's what they say, but it's not true. Not for research and innovation. So it's true overall, but they mix many things in there. So like there are a couple of projects or funding mechanisms which have a much higher success rate. So if you look at the pillar in health and especially in research and innovation actions, the success rate sometimes drops significantly below 10%. Okay? So if you have a 2-stage process, sometimes even in the second stage, you have 30 proposals for only 2 projects funded. So inherently only a success rate below 10%. There's research telling us that if the success rate below 20% in an evaluation will not be able to pick reliably the best proposals. It becomes, erratic. Because it's very difficult to pick the 15 from the 14.5. Yeah? Sometimes it's just like minor issues which decide, which is unfair, but it's the part of the game. Okay. I thought maybe we have a short break. If you feel, you can discuss informally a little bit, if you have any questions, and then we probably take it up in 15 minutes, okay? Yes? Sorry?